Hey friends, how are you doing today? It is Monday afternoon. If you're here anywhere for the most part that watch the show, I'm your host, Mark Levy. This is MarkTalk. And as you're probably aware, for Mondays in October, we are doing a horror movie themed stuff where I talk to friends of mine that are fans of horror, sometimes in the industry, sometimes not, but sometimes just showing me something cool. If you haven't watched the show before or would like to help, there's many ways you can help. You can look down there. You can press a like. You can subscribe. All that stuff helps the show. If you want to help the show in other ways too, I can show you another way to do that. Since we're still a little bit small, you can Venmo me at Mark-Levy. Every dollar you spend, every dollar you donate goes directly to the show. See, like right there, that's a banner that makes you be able to see like what we're doing, and makes it able to go out to like Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. People still use Periscope, which is cool. But without further ado, I'm so freaking excited. We're probably gonna be off next week, so this might be our last one for the horror day ones. But one of my dear friends, fellow insane person that I adore from the bottom of my heart, the one, the only Jordan Mantor. How are you, dude?
Hey, Mark. Good to be here. Good to see you again.
So happy to have you here, man. It's been a little bit over a year since I've seen you in person, and I was so happy visiting LA and hanging out with you there. Hope everything's been going well on your end in the pandemic. I see. I hope.
I guess I wouldn't compare my experience to anyone else's at this point. They're all valid, and we're all going through a rough time. But I've been coping with horror movies.
Which is what we do. I mean, like, this is like how our friendship really started. Like the fact that we both love weird fucking movies, especially when it comes to horror. And also, I gotta say, I love your Funko collection behind you. I can see you got an Audrey 2 behind you, which I also have myself. In your Funkos above you. But so today, Jordan recommended me to watch Lair of the White Worm, Ken Russell's last major movie. I mean, like, he didn't make much movies after this, towards the end of his life. But what made you recommend Lair of the White Worm to me?
It was just total, like, kind of shot in the dark. I just thought of a movie at random. When I recommend movies to people, there really isn't like an agenda, or like, aside from me thinking that they will like it, like variants of genre. It's like, if something's good and it's like wacky enough for a specific person, then I'll recommend it. It's all who fits the vibe of the person I'm talking to. And for one reason or another, it's just like how, like,
oh, did I lose you again? Okay. I like to think that I want to think he's all right.
Oh, no, that's it. It's just for you, for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is my third Ken Russell movie I've ever seen. I've only seen Tommy, of course, and The Devils, which I fucking love. And this is under the category of movies I actually very much enjoyed. So for those that don't know, this is based off of Bram Stoker's last book, which was written in 1911. And it was a modernized adaptation about it. And it's about these sisters that have an archaeologist in their backyard who finds a giant skull, and then some creepy, sexy lady comes and steals the skull and starts murdering people and kidnapping people to sacrifice to this giant worm. I'm trying to think what else I need to. Oh, and also Hugh Grant's in there. Hugh Grant and Pierre Capaldi is in it as the archaeologist, and Hugh Grant is part of like a legacy of people that defeat the worm. Like, the worm,
it's kind of all genetic, bloodliney stuff you get into with a couple characters in there.
Yeah. So, how'd you first find this movie?
Like most horror movies, I came across it when me and my mom, when I was a little kid, in 2002, and we went to Dave's Laser Palace, which no longer exists, in Studio City, California. And there specifically, they had a huge horror section, mostly full of like, Redemption. If you remember that brand from like the late 90s, early 2000s, like just a huge, massive collection of horror stuff.
Yeah.
And Lair of the White Worm was there. And this was the era where we were just like, my mom worked in post, and we were always just around movies and doing stuff, so we just buy bulk, tons of DVDs at once. And Lair of the White Worm was one of them. And she said she had saw it when it came out, I think in '88, and because I was just in the habit of watching adult movies at a very early age, I probably saw this around like 9 or 10 for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those that like has stuck with me over the course of time, like a constant, like Society, which is my go-to.
Society is so much fun and so
it's
joyful right now.
Bonkers and good. I just rewatched it the other day. But it periodically comes back up whenever people mention Ken Russell, because I think it's a very interesting addition to his entire filmography, and like it kind of makes sense contextually coming off of Gothic, fitting into the 3-picture Vestron deal. Right. But I think it's the best of the 3, in my opinion. I think it's just fun and campy and bonkers and cosmic and great.
I like, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is like the seduction / murder of the Boy Scout character. Like, you just see him like there, like in rain, and then all of a sudden, like, you barely are introduced to like the Lady Myra, right? Was that her name? No, Lady Sylvia.
Yeah.
Lady Sylvia Marsh, played by Amanda Donahue. And like, she like just steals the skull, and on her drive back, she sees this kid like who's like 18, and she's like, "Get in my car," and he's like, "Okay." And then like she's like, "I will get you someplace safe to Temple House." And next thing you know, they're playing Chutes and Ladders, but Snakes and Ladders, and like she's just like in lingerie and like 5-inch heels. And you're like, oh, this is going to go someplace weird. And then he gets in the hot tub and she bites his dick off.
The natural progression.
It's like, great. This is the movie Teeth, sort of, but not at all. But it was like so weird because like the movie is like so kind of normally mystery-ish until she gets introduced.
Yeah, it's a gradual, that's like the first seedling of something truly insidious going on, and then it precedes the total downward into insanity movement that the film veers towards.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's virgin sacrifices in them. Well, in almost virgin sacrifice. Well, a virgin is almost sacrificed in this movie. But like, I think also what I really love is seeing the hypnosis of the cop.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a part towards the end of the movie when shit's getting fucking weird. And Pierre Capaldi starts playing a bagpipe, and a cop is like about to murder one of the main girls in the movie, and his eyes just get like hypnotized, like this, like there's a snake, and the snake goes up, and the cop goes up, and then like Pierre Capaldi just like enchants the snake away by bagpipe.
It's almost like Ken Russell saw, like, all right, I want to do an Ed Wood film, but I want to do it like my way. I want to do it the Ken Russell way, because it's just so like out there in a way that movies weren't doing. It's just total B movie goodness, and that kind of medium of telling even horror movies is kind of dead now. The whole B movie.
Oh, totally. Like, I feel like they stopped once streaming became a really big thing. You know, like, because I feel like there were a lot of straight to video B movies, and now they're just straight to streaming that are like two in the know. I feel like
that you have to do a little bit more digging, maybe, and maybe it's just that I don't know. It's just very maybe the 50s pastiche isn't as in vogue as it was in the 80s. Like, our 50s is the 80s.
Yeah. What I also love in this movie is I was reading some IMDb trivia about it. And originally, Tilda Swinton was cast as Lady Sylvia Marsh, which that would have been such an interesting actress for this role, considering what we know of as Tilda Swinton.
For sure, it would have been like we might have got a whole genre would have gotten introduced to her way earlier otherwise. And she was busy doing like Derek Jarman movies, I think, like really upper echelon art housey stuff. So that would have been like an interesting heel turn for her too.
Yeah. What was it like watching this movie as a 10-year-old, like as a 10-year-old, like with it being so like hypersexualized and interesting. Because whenever something, there's so much psychedelic scenes in most Ken Russell movies. I remember one of the things that really stuck out to me is the part where Lady Sylvia Marsh just bit somebody and she got blood dripping down her face. It's all kind of seep kind of crazy technicolor behind her while she's with a giant dildo in her hand that's pointy.
This is true. Ken Russell goes for the phallus stuff very well symbolically. A lot of directors do, but he does it particularly well. Yeah. It's weird. Going back to your question of what it was like to watch this as a young person. I guess no more weird or outliery than any other horror movie at the time, because I think of horror movies that really positively impacted me and negatively impacted me with the content. Yeah. With how graphic and out there they were, and this wouldn't have been on the top of it. In terms of inventiveness, it would have been up there. But at the point I was watching this, I had already seen Society once.
And Society's last act is just an orgy of blood in so many different ways.
Exactly, and I think once you're prepared for that, you're prepared for anything almost at that age. But you think about even modern day stuff that was coming out then, which is a lot less campy and a lot more visceral with it. I remember when Hollow Man came out, and the only reason I bring that movie up is because I was 5 when I saw it, and that conversely to Lair of the White Worm, Hollow Man was a movie we had to turn off because I couldn't watch it anymore.
Well, it's really bad, and also just a lot of weird in that movie.
It's true. It's a difference between Lair of a White Worm and gawking at it and laughing and enjoying yourself and covering your mouth in visceral horror.
And Tony is saying hi to us, of course. Hey Tony, miss you, dude.
Good to see you, Tony.
Yeah, it's so for those that don't know, Jordan's got a fun history with movies. As we heard, his mom works in post production. His dad's also big movie guy too. So you your background with movies is so different than my naturally background with movies, because my parents were just hey, you can watch this as long as in your age range, But I still watched a lot of movies growing up,
No, for sure, and what I found kind of a weird inverse of that is there's a lot of children's movies or family movies that a lot of people grow up with that I've never seen, The Goonies I've never seen. The Last Starfighter I've never seen. Starman I've never seen. There's a lot of I see Tony down there. So and a lot of the old Disney stuff I just haven't seen. So in place of Cinderella or The Rescuers would be Lair of the White Worm.
Oh my god, I love that so much. Because I remember when Blair Witch Project came out, which I feel you saw and I saw probably at the same time. Because I feel you saw when you were 5 and I saw when I was 15. I remember being so scared for the people, being why did they release this movie? They're all dead. And then the movie came out, I was just oh my god, this is horrifying. And I bet you were good.
See, that's interesting because I didn't really I wasn't cognizant of Blair Witch until I was cognizant of Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, which I saw before Blair Witch.
Which I remember when I saw it in theaters, I actually liked Book of Shadows, but I didn't love it. I didn't see Blair Witch until it was on VHS, I think. But when I was on Video Store, that's when I saw it for sure.
Which, if you think about it, is the perfect medium to watch that movie. Absolutely.
I mean, it really is. I want to talk about something that I find so fascinating about Lair of the White Worm. The cavern they shoot in for 10 minutes in the movie is so fucking huge. I'm amazed that a cave like that exists. It's on top of a mountain, and it's just so tall. You don't see that. At least I'm not used to seeing that.
I mean, definitely not here or anything, but I think once you shooting on location in England, and once you get into the Isles and the way that geographically is all put together, you come up with a lot of beautiful stuff like that. We don't We just don't have a lot of naturally occurring resources like that. But that's what makes that so cool. That's why you can shoot like a Lord of the Rings or a Lair of a White Worm or something in
Yeah,
that part of the world.
it was actually called Thor's Cave where that part was shot.
I buy that. Totally.
I mean, it's this massive cavern with like two entrances that are like right next to each other. You're just like, wow. Um, Another thing that I was like so amazed by is towards the end of the movie when Peter Capaldi finally like gets into the temple. I love how they call that place Temple House when it's like the most sinister, beautiful like mansion I've ever seen. Because that's where Lady Sylvia Marsh seduces and murders people and has her giant things come out. But like when he gets there, the like he like hears a creaking noise behind like a wall, and then she comes out fully naked, painted in blue, like
Yes.
and that is literally a scary fucking part that scared the shit out of me. Watching her attack him like that.
Oh yeah, it's like she's no holds barred by the time the third act comes around, man. The transformation is complete.
Yeah, like because she's got her sacrifice ready. She's got the other person poisoned. Everything's ready, and she just needs to. And he's just stopping her from sacrificing this giant worm.
It's a tale as old as time, right?
It's a Beauty and the Beast, basically. Yeah. But I just love how just so like I'm still like wrapping my mind around this movie like almost 24 hours later. I watched this last night. I was just like, because it's not scary except for that one part. It's just like weirdly, unsettlingly like British horror, you know?
It's true. And Ken Russell even said, like, actively, like, the movie was intended as a comedy. He wanted it to function as a comedy.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like using the mechanism of 50s horror tropes as a vessel for comedy. And I think that's kind of oddly subversive in a way. I dig that.
It's just it's really cool. Like I never even heard of like Amanda Donoghue. Like I'm now looking at her filmography right now, and I've seen her like in like 5 or 6 movies. Like Liar Liar. She was also in Madison King George. I'm about to reveal something about me because you know I don't like this series, but Starship Troopers 3 Marauder.
The third one.
Yeah. But it's so beautiful how weirdly camp this movie is. And like how cool it is to see like people like Peter Capaldi and Hugh Grant before they become anything big, you know?
It's true. And it also goes to function the kind of pull that, like, I think Ken Russell's a fairly respected director here, but imagine what it was like for those actors who were like classically trained to like hear from Ken Russell, who's like, I'm pretty sure his stature in Britain is bigger slightly than it is here. Maybe it is by a lot, I would think.
I mean, it would make sense to me. Like, because sorry, continue.
Oh no, I was just gonna wrap up quick. I was just gonna say like it must have been a huge thing for them to work with him, and then you get Lair of a White Worm, which is, it's not Women in Love for sure.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely after like his most famous years, like in the 70s and everything. But it's so cool seeing like the imagery, like he's so good where he places his camera always, you know. And even though this was definitely, I feel like, a lower budget movie than The Devils, I mean, it has to be because The Devils have built a whole fucking town for. And Tommy, of course, which is, I don't love Tommy, but like I respect Tommy.
Yeah, what it took to get that movie made and the way they pulled it off, it's worthy of that.
Like I don't love the source material, but I'm very cool with like how the movie is, you know. And like he was such an interesting visionary director, you know. And I've only seen like 3 of his movies. I still need to see like list. I've heard he needs to see Listomania. I've heard he needs to see Altered States.
I've seen very little of his stuff too. Actually, I've seen clips of The Devils. I've seen this, and I've seen Gothic, which is the first movie that he did under the Vestron deal, and that kind of it's an interesting companion piece to Lair of a White Worm too, because it's got, excuse me, that kind of a similar like stylistic baseline, except even more. Instead of Bram Stoker, it's more like Mary Shelley, and it's
Yeah.
on its head a little bit. But yeah, I love the back end of his career where he starts embracing genre stuff more and more is interesting for sure. It's worthy of its own examination.
Yeah, I
Beginning
think
with,
sorry, what?
beginning with Altered States for his whole '80s period. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I might do with him what I did with Kubrick and oh my god, guys, all of a sudden. The guy did the guy that directed Harold and Maude. Hal Ashby. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how guys also, but like I know like 6 or 7 years ago I watched every Kubrick film I could. And then like 2 years ago I watched every Ashby movie that mattered, which is like 8 movies. I stuck away from like the music documentaries basically. But I think it might be worth my time to dive into a Ken Russell watch of like the big movies I've not seen before, you know?
I think so. I think it's worth it. Anytime you get into like a creative person who's like truly iconoclastic, I think if you're interested in the medium, you owe it to yourself to form an opinion on something that is incredibly creatively divisive.
Yeah.
Because I think it informs you as a viewer and as a creative person. So I would recommend Ken Russell to anyone, just so that they, even if it's so that they can know for sure that they don't like it.
Yeah, and people can watch this movie relatively easily. I have a Roku, and you can watch it for free on the Roku channel, and you can also watch it for free on Tubi. Both those have advertisements every like 20 minutes or so. But it's a very accessible film, and it's short too, which I also liked. Yeah, let me get ready to wrap up because I want to talk about, because I always like, I think I can say this too much with the tech issues, but it shouldn't be too hard. But how about recommendations for other horror movies for the listeners?
Ooh, recommending other stuff. Let's see. We're going for horror specifically, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, just because it's that time of year.
For sure. Just to buy myself a little bit of time, I'll bring up the last horror movie I watched, which is one on my own. I rewatched The Burning. I still like that one. It's still impactful. It's still good. I saw The Prowler, like in the same day, which is basically, it's the most basic slasher movie of all time, but it's still so effective. You got Savini, Farley Granger, great effects, super fun, super like, it's ultimately disposable but fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a hidden gem or something that I can throw.
If you want, I mean, like, it doesn't matter.
The Final Terror is actually, I've been on a slasher kick, so forgive me for uploading.
I love my slasher movies. That's my baseline for horror. Slasher and zombie. They're like, yeah.
Solely based on the cast, I watched The Final Terror, which I had never heard of before. And I was shocked at how fun I thought it was.
Never even heard of that one.
Oh, yeah. Daryl Hannah, Joey Pants, Rachel Ward, Joe Roth, who's now like one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, especially in the 90s. He produced it. It was like his early thing.
That sounds like fun.
It is fun. And Ronald Shusett is one of the writers who did fucking, I mean, you know, pardon my language.
No, you can curse all fuck you want. I don't care.
Oh, okay, cool. It was right in his Dead and Buried era. And I love Dead and Buried. So I feel like those two back. That's another one, Dead and Buried. If you haven't seen it, love it. Love Dead and Buried, actually. A lot.
I've heard of it. I've not had a chance to see it before, but I've heard it's really good. I'm going to recommend something I watched the other day because I've been watching like one new horror movie a day for myself. Well, I'm going to recommend two because this last one. No, did I think I talked about last time? I can't talk about. Well, I was going to recommend Hell Comes to Frogtown, which I fucking love. I saw it in Shudder for the first time ever, and still laughing my ass off by like 2 parts of that movie. But I'm going to recommend a very genuinely scary movie that kind of fucked me up bad. The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen that one before?
No, but you're like the third person in 2 days that has told me that they've saw it and liked it.
It's on Netflix. It's super accessible. Like, it's not even 90 minutes. It's Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch, both coroners, and they get body that they have to deal with, and the body is interesting, to put mildly. It kind of feels like an escape room kind of situation, like how they keep finding new puzzle pieces for what's happening. And it's pretty fucked up and scary, and it's also not too terribly gory for those that don't like extreme gore. It still is a movie where they're doing autopsy, but it's not like Society or The Thing, where it's just like The Thing almost got me bad when I first saw The Thing. It's like all like how it happens,
just how gooey it is. Yeah.
You guys see Scare Package? I think you would like that if you haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that one either.
It's on Shudder, but it's in your wheelhouse. It's an anthology movie, but it's a lot of fun. It's new, it's silly, it's campy, it's scary. It's all that fun stuff.
Love the omnibus. I'm always here for the omnibus for sure.
Yeah. And anything you want to plug or anything before we start wrapping up?
Nah, man. Just thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun. It's been a long time since I talked to another movie person about movies, so it felt good.
That's insane, because I know that I feel like you're the person that's like surrounded by movie people all the time, because we're such similar nerds, and I love every time I get a chance to talk to you.
It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad it makes me feel good that you watch something I recommend to you. Always.
Yeah. I mean, please send me recommendations whenever, man. And getting ready to wrap up. Here's our programming for the rest of the week. On Wednesday, on my interview day, I got my friend Muna Abdullahi, which I'm very excited to talk to her. If you know her, she's an amazing poet, player of online games, and just a really amazing, good, inspiring person. On Friday, my Brant Steele Day, where we're going to do our Survivor season and see who joins the MarkTalk Brant Steele's Winners at War Circle. And you can tweet at me at MarkLevy85. Jordan, thank you so much for doing this with me today. It meant so much to me when when I put out the feelers on Facebook. I'm like, hey, who wants to recommend me? You're like, yeah, and then it was just perfectly strange and great.
I'm glad. Anytime for you. Anytime.
And I'll see you guys next time on Wednesday. See you then.